Images of Haitian migrants being hit with whips and other forms of physical violence is completely unacceptable. This behavior must be addressed, and we must provide accountability. The images turn your stomach. It must be stopped, this kind of violence. Right now, I'm told there are 4 flights scheduled to deport these asylum seekers back to a country that cannot receive them. Such a decision defies common sense. It also defies common decency and what America is all about. Remember that harbor, that lady in the harbor in the city in which I live. We cannot continue these hateful and xenophobic Trump policies that disregard our refugee laws.
A hateful and xenophobic hangover from Donald Trump's administration. The words there of Democratic U.S. Senate Leader Chuck Schumer today as he urged President Biden to end mass deportations of Haitian migrants. Thousands of migrants, many from Haiti, are camped under the Del Rio Bridge that crosses from Mexico to the U.S. state of Texas. Many are facing deportation. Our Washington Bureau Chief Enos Pohl, she is in Texas covering this story for us. Good evening to you, Enos. In the 24 hours since you and I last spoke, this border crisis has become a matter for leaders of Congress in Washington. We just heard from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer there. He wants deportations to stop. But that is not the total fix for this problem, is it?
No, not at all, Brent. You know, this would only fight the symptoms, but really not change the real causes for all those thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of migrants who are fleeing their countries to find a better life here in the United States. I assume that many of our viewers agree with Chuck Schumer that these images we saw were just like heartbreaking and disgusting. But it is interesting to have a listen to those people who live in areas and cities like Del Rio and how they feel about how one should handle the pure amount of migrants who just came. Let's have a listen into our report from Del Rio. It was supposed to be a happy moment, a relief to finally cross the border of the United States. But after months, sometimes years on the road, a dream quickly turned into a nightmare for these migrants from Haiti. We were hungry. They didn't give us a blanket or a piece of cardboard to lay on. We were cold and dirty and everything. Everything happened to me. But thanks to God, I have a little bit of hope that everything will be okay. Taken from the bridge, he was brought to a facility where he could finally shower, eat, and put on fresh clothes. Roberto Marquez is fighting the deportation of the thousands of migrants who came here last week.
The solution is to bring some business people and they'll take care of this problem in 5 minutes. What they would do is they give him work, because that's what they're looking for.
For President Joe Biden, this is another crisis that he needs to address immediately. After his controversial withdrawal from Afghanistan, leading to tens of thousands of Afghans to resettle in the United States. The border town Del Rio, with its 36,000 inhabitants, is in crisis mode. The bridge to Mexico is closed, border control, police and military is everywhere. The whole world seems to watch how the United States are going to handle the 14,000 refugees who crossed the Rio Grande in the last few days.
I think the only people that were caught by surprise were the politicians, because the people on the ground, the citizens, former Border Patrol agents and the current law enforcement here, they knew this was going to happen. Under President Trump, we had the Remain in Mexico policy. Trump put pressure on Mexico, the trade specifically. And so when Mexico had an incentive to cooperate and be a good neighbor, they helped us out. But Biden came in and took all that off the table, and this is what has happened.
After waiting all day long, a bus finally arrives to pick up those migrants who can afford a ticket and prove that they have family in the US with whom they can stay. A glimmer of hope for some at a border where long journeys often come to a cruel end.
Ines, I was struck by the gentleman in your story there, Roberto Marquez, who said that they just need to bring business people to the area and give these migrants jobs. That's what they're looking for. But that's a very oversimplification of this crisis, isn't it? These people are not just looking for work if they're willing to give up on everything and head for the U.S., are they?
Ich war weg.
Ines, can you hear me? Ines, can you hear me? Do we have Ines? Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost our audio. Ines, you can't hear us, can you? Okay, unfortunately, we apologize for that. We've lost...
Brent?
Yes, Ines, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Brent. Sorry, we had some technical issues.
That's okay. That's okay. Let me just ask you, the gentleman in your story, Roberto Marquez, he said just bring in some business people and give these migrants jobs. But isn't that an oversimplification of this situation?
That would indeed help many of those refugees. You know, Brent, also those we talked to, they just said we are here to work. We don't want government money for free, but we just want to work here in the United States.
All right, DW's Ines Pohl there in Texas covering what is yet another migrant crisis at the border between the U.S. and Mexico. Ines, thank you.